I've wanted to do a video on Beetlejuice for ages. Ever since I've started the channel, I want to do something on Beetlejuice, but I never really had the right idea. Because something about me, I don't like making videos just because. I will make a video because I have an idea. Then, after making my Eliza Gasp video, I remember that there's only been 3 Lydias in Beetlejuice. And I thought it'd be really nice to do another version of a comparison video and who's the best blank video. But do it with 3 actresses that I can focus on more than one song for to properly determine who is the best. So that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're looking at Sophia Anne Caruso, Presley Ryan and Dana Steingold to determine who is the best Lydia. So I just want to make this clear. Theatre is what? Subjective! So anything with me saying this is the best Lydia is just my opinion. And you are free to agree or disagree with me. And feel free to write your opinions in the comments down below. I love talking to people with the same opinion, different opinions, and having really nice chats with you in the comments. It's really insightful to see what people think. Because again, theatre is what? Subjective! I've got to make that merch. That'll be my first piece of merch. Theatre is what? Subjective. Lydia is a very interesting character. And I think with any character, it's important to work out who they are when you're comparing. Lydia is a free-spirited individual. She's got a tough outer shell, but she's intelligent, quirky, but most of all, she's struggling. She's hurting on the inside, and she's mourning, and no one in her family is giving her the time of day to mourn. That is what I'm looking for in a Lydia. With that description confirmed, I decided there was 2 songs that I wanted to look at. One was of course Dead Mom, the most popular song. And the other one was Lydia's other big ballad song, Home. Comparing her I Want song and her 11 o'clock number. I also think it's important to say here that I am going to be overly critical because these 3 are all actresses at the top of their game. To even be able to criticise and compare, I've got to be nitpicky. But let's start with Dead Mum. Sophia ticks a lot of boxes. The line that comes in the middle of the song illustrates this well.
This house is actually pretty interesting. Sure, Dad'll ruin it.
It's delivered in that perfect teen, sarky tone that it comes across very well and illustrates their relationship so clearly to an audience. Sophia's vocals though, I'm a little bit conflicted. On the softer moments, I love them. Her You're My Home, My Destination is so beautiful and soft and she carries the notes beautifully. But whenever she needs to belt, it feels like she's struggling. She does a lot of yelling, which I'm going to show you right now. It sounds like she's putting way too much pressure on it, especially at the end. She's like yelling out. This is most likely just a bad vocal day and I will look over it. But I really do wonder because damaging your voice like that is really bad, especially at a young age. And these vocals need to be properly protected. But back to being a bit more positive. Sophia's end section is great. I love her facial expressions when she's going a plague of mice, a lightning strike. She looks so joyous, but then there's also that tone of I'm so angry, I just want to be seen. She's infused with it. And those last few lines are so well delivered. Overall, Sophia gives a good performance. She has the character down really well, and being a teen herself, she brings a lot to it. Even though I do fear for her vocal cords every time she belts. Presley Ryan is even younger than Sophia, and I do think this is clear in her performance. There's a lot more innocence, and I do believe this plays to her favour in the emotional side of Lydia. First off, it's a bit more believable, and I think her anger and angst is a nice contrast to her height and appearance, and her sobs and her softer section hit twice as hard. As I think when you're dealing with a younger actress, or a young person who is playing a young person, it's a lot more easier to empathise and relate. I do think it's also important to mention, because I mentioned it so heavily in Sophia's review, that Presley's belts do kind of end with a little bit of a yell. They're not as noticeable and they're not as harsh, but they are there. I will say, however, I'm not as a massive fan of some of Presley's decisions with her physical movements. I'll show you some examples here because I can't even really put it into words, but she's very physical with her whole body. And I think this can work if she used it in moderation a little bit more and give some more still moments so that when she's in that ending bit with the plague of mice, a lightning strike, her big gestures can stand out a lot more. so there's a little bit more build up, but that is extremely nitpicky. I did say I was going to be very nitpicky. I mean, when you look at it, Sophia and Presley do a very similar takes. Both do a very good job at portraying this character, with her angst, but also her emotional side behind all of it, and her trauma. Presley's vocals are beautiful, and her innocence really boosts it, but of course I do have a few gripes with the physical decisions, but, you know, does it matter that much? She still delivers a great performance here. Finally, Dana Steingold. It's interesting to note that Dana is the oldest of the Lydias. But, I mean, she does blend right in because of her size. But when I'm comparing the three Lydias, it's quite clear that she is the most experienced. Her delivery of
This house is actually quite interesting. I'm sure Dad'll ruin it.
is my favourite. Because she really mixes together that really passive-aggressive tone that you get of teenagers and just pure anger and disappointment and frustration. It's a really nice little line and it really stands out. Her voice is quite high-pitched, especially compared to Sophia, but this doesn't detract from her performance. Actually, if anything, I just pulled my lip. If anything, it actually adds to it. It gives her something like what Presley has. It gives her that little bit of innocence. Now, her vocals. Oh my god, her vocals. Her belts are so comfortable. She sings the song so effortlessly. I think out of the three Lydias, she knows her vocal limits much more. And she adjusts the song towards this. And because of this, she sings it amazingly. It all suits her and it's all perfect for the character. And there's no weird yell on the belts. Out of the three dead mums, I think it has to go to Dana for me. Okay, but what about home? This is Lydia's 11 o'clock number. This is her big realisation, so how does each Lydia handle it? Now, I can only find audios of Presley and Dana, and so to make it fair, I also listened to a bootleg version of Sophia and just the audio, just to give it a level playing field of fairness. Starting with Sophia, I think I much prefer her performance of this over her performance of Dead Mum. She sounds so lost and so emotionally raw. Even as she goes through the song and she starts to rebuild herself, there is still that rawness in there and that emotion. She gets across the pain so well. And you can tell in this moment she's at her absolute worst. Her argument with her dad is delivered so beautifully. Just the sobs in her voice, the softer tones. The way she says, "She was my whole world," that gets to me. And then her final section is so joyous. Her voice sounds great here. She's not pushing it too much. There's one point where she belts and she yells, but I've already said my piece on that. I'm leaving it behind. Go away. She sings it beautifully. I do love this version of Home. Sophia gives it everything and really builds that character. And I think it's a perfect way to bring that kind of story arc to its end. Presley has quite a different take on this scene. I almost feel like when I'm listening to a performance, she's almost begging. She's like bargaining. She's asking, why? How do I get back home? Where is home? Where are you? She needs her mum and she needs answers right now. I really feel the weight of her words in her version. Her soft tone in her vocals is amazing. The way she sings her first home, it's so soft and it's so floaty. And even when she builds into more of the belty sections, she still leads into it with confidence, giving you those beautiful vocals. And some of the smaller vocal choices are really effective, like the way she decides to speak minute and in it instead of singing it. The argument between her and her dad at the start feels a bit more angry, and then eventually leads into the more softer forgiveness, I'll kind of say. Finally, there's her last section. She gets across that joyous tone just like Sophia. And this is where Presley's vocals just shine. They sound glorious. And she shows just how amazing she is at 15. It's so impressive, such a great performance and deserves so much praise. And then finally, there is Dana. She won Dead Mum for me, but how is she going to handle this? Well, I do want to say for Dana, something that I didn't actually mention for the other two, is that her introduction when she's shouting, "Mom, Mum," and crying and sobbing, that's where she really affected me. They carried such an emotional weight and I really felt her pain even before I went into the song. Out of the three, her vocals suit the song the best, but I think that's kind of been the theme throughout all of this. I don't want to talk about her vocals again, but they're so good. They're so good. She is such a good vocalist. Every little decision, I can't even pick out one moment because every single little decision is so good. She carries the song so well. It's just so beautiful. I wish I had a recording, like a proper professional recording of Dana singing this, because it is beautiful. Absolutely tiny nitpick. Tiny nitpick. Editor Daniel, please shrink me so tiny because of how small this nitpick is. I think she sounds a little bit too old in some of the moments in this song, but that is so small nitpick. Doesn't even affect my opinion. Doesn't even affect it. Just wanted to mention it because I thought it for like a second and I was like, okay, maybe not. There is so much vulnerability in her performance, especially in her talk with her dad. And her final verse, she shines. She absolutely shines. We get more of that effortless belting and I just die in my seat. Yet another fantastic performance. But which one is my favourite here? Oh, this one's so much less clear-cut than Dead Mum for me. There's no frontrunner here. Dana has my favourite vocals. Sophia has my favourite emotion. Presley has my favourite acting. I think if I'm going to pick any, for this one I'm going to go with Presley. I think I loved her take on the song, and I think she was the one I was hardest hit emotionally by. Maybe because of her age. I'm not sure, but every single one of these performances was amazing. But out of all three of them, I think I've got to pick a favourite now. I do hate doing this because theatre is so subjective and I'm allowed my opinions, but then again I feel like I'm disrespecting some of the other actresses. So please do know that even though I am going to pick a favourite right now, I do love all of them. But I think my favourite Lydia is Dana. I think in the fandom, she's kind of severely underrated. She is such a great Lydia. She has amazing vocals. Like, her vocals spread like butter. She gets the character down 100%. Her acting choices are amazing. And emotionally, she gets me every single time. But honestly, the fact that 2 out of 3 of these actresses are teenagers is so impressive that they are doing this like day after day, week after week. Or were. 2020, and all of them give such great performances in everything they do. So just thank you. If any of you are somehow watching this, thank you for being great. I love you. But theatre is what? Subjective. So who's your favourite Lydia? What's your favourite Beetlejuice song? Let me know in the comments down below. But if you enjoyed this video, please consider hitting like and maybe subscribing. It really helps me out and helps continue what I'm doing. Here are some links to some of my other videos on screen right now. But that's it for me today. I'll hopefully see you next time.